Among us exists a rare type of woman whose intelligence cannot be captured by conventional measures. She possesses an unseen wisdom that flows quietly, like hidden rivers beneath the surface of human awareness. You recognize her instantly, even if you cannot explain why her presence resonates deep within you or why her silence conveys more than 1,000 words. This subtle form of intelligence has intrigued depth psychologists for generations, especially Carl Jung, who identified that some women exhibit what he termed a superior feeling function, a psychological ability that surpasses ordinary emotional sensitivity. These women do not merely experience emotions more intensely, they perceive through dimensions invisible to most. They sense the energetic imprints of souls, interpret the symbolic language of the unconscious, and navigate life through channels still uncharted by science. What follows will outline 6 defining traits that separate these spiritually intelligent women from those who only simulate spirituality or confuse emotional reactivity with genuine insight. These traits operate within the hidden layers of consciousness, often misunderstood in a world that prioritizes the measurable over the mystical. Yet for those who possess them, these traits are both a gift and a responsibility, a calling that requires navigating multiple worlds while staying grounded in this one. The first subtle trait appears through their remarkable ability to perceive energies that others cannot. When she enters a room, the atmosphere shifts, not because of her words or actions, but because of what she radiates. Jung described this through his concept of the feeling function when fully developed. Unlike mere sentimentality or emotional reaction, this advanced feeling acts as a precise instrument, detecting the faint vibrations of authenticity, deception, pain, and joy in every human interaction. These women serve as living indicators of the human condition. They sense unspoken tensions between couples at dinner, perceive the hidden sorrow of a cheerful neighbor, and recognize the concealed motives behind a polished exterior. This is not paranoia or projection. It is pattern recognition functioning at levels most people cannot reach. Their nervous systems, shaped by years of heightened awareness, trauma, or inherited traits, are finely tuned to notice signals that others completely overlook. The ancestral element cannot be overlooked. These women frequently inherit the energetic legacy of grandmothers and great-grandmothers who developed this sensitivity out of necessity. They were women who needed to read the emotional atmosphere of their homes to ensure survival, who learned to sense danger in a husband's step or opportunity in a neighbor's glance. This ancestral knowledge flows through generations like a river of intuition, emerging in daughters who feel drained in crowds, exhausted after social events, or unusually certain about people they have just met. Yet, this gift comes with its challenges. To perceive clearly is to notice what others prefer to conceal. To feel deeply is to recognize pretense and performance everywhere. These women often find themselves isolated, not by choice, but because of the sheer intensity of their perceptive abilities. They become mirrors, reflecting truths others are not ready to confront, oracles speaking in ways that sound like judgment to those still asleep within their illusions. Have you ever entered a room and immediately sensed that something was off, even though everyone around seemed completely normal? Have you ever felt an instant dislike or worriness towards someone, only to discover later that your instinct was accurate, despite not understanding why at the time? This marks the first insight into the concept of energetic literacy, a skill that naturally turns these women into subtle guardians of emotional truth. The second trait is revealed through their deep connection with what Jung described as the collective unconscious, a vast repository of archetypal patterns and universal symbols that shape human experience across different cultures and eras. While most people catch occasional glimpses of this deeper layer of reality through dreams or sudden inspirations, spiritually aware women keep open and consistent access to this source of insight. They dream in symbols that often later unfold in real life, encounter synchronicities at a frequency that defies chance, and receive intuitive guidance that proves highly reliable. Jung noted that some individuals have what he called a more permeable ego boundary, allowing them to tap into collective wisdom without losing their personal identity. These women exemplify that rare ability. They act as interpreters between the symbolic world and everyday life, converting the abstract language of the unconscious into practical and actionable understanding. A dream involving water, for example, may translate into meaningful guidance about emotional healing. A brief encounter with a particular animal can serve as a message about personal power. A repeating number pattern can act as confirmation that one is on the correct path. This connection to the collective unconscious heightens their awareness of meaningful coincidences. While many dismiss these events as mere chance, these women interpret them as communications from the deeper intelligence guiding reality behind the scenes. They learn to rely on these synchronistic signposts, moving through life with a sense of flow and timing that may seem magical to others, but feels entirely natural to them. They recognize that the universe communicates through subtle signs and symbols and have cultivated the inner sensitivity to perceive them. This phenomenon extends beyond personal insight into service for others. These women frequently appear in the right place at the right time to provide exactly what someone requires, not through planning, but by following unseen currents of meaning. They act as intermediaries between the material and spiritual realms, translating universal wisdom into human understanding through their presence, their words, and their very being. Their lives unfold like stories of mythic proportions, filled with encounters that seem orchestrated by some benevolent cosmic intelligence. This naturally leads to their third trait, one that often confuses those around them. These spiritually aware women cultivate what Jung called sacred solitude, choosing time alone not out of dislike for others, but out of insight. They grasp something that highly social cultures often fail to understand: the deepest personal transformations occur in silence, away from the opinions and energies of others. Their solitude is not loneliness, it is a laboratory for the soul. Jung's idea of individualization requires stepping back from collective influences to uncover one's true self. These women instinctively respect this process, allowing space for their inner voice to rise above societal noise. They recognize the difference between solitude that nurtures and isolation that harms, consciously choosing the former instead of accepting the latter as punishment. When they retreat, they are not avoiding life, they are immersing themselves in it more fully. The sacred quality of their solitude shows in how they spend this time. Rather than distracting themselves, they engage in practices that strengthen their connection to inner wisdom. They journal, meditate, create, or simply sit in silence, letting the residue of daily experience settle so clarity can emerge. These periods of withdrawal become moments of deep creativity and spiritual insight, when perspectives shift and understanding of existence is profoundly transformed. Yet this natural rhythm of retreat and engagement often confuses family and friends, who may perceive their need for space as rejection or depression. These women must learn to respect their energetic cycles without feeling guilt. They come to understand that their depth requires regular returns to their inner well. Trying to maintain constant social interaction drains their spiritual resources and reduces their capacity to serve others authentically. Solitude becomes an act of self-care that ultimately benefits everyone around them. The fourth trait reveals perhaps the most profound aspect of their spiritual intelligence: their ability to convert personal suffering into universal wisdom through what Jung described as the transcendent function. These women do not simply endure pain, they transform it. They willingly descend into their personal underworld, confronting the demons that many avoid for a lifetime, and emerge bearing insights that can only arise from the depths of personal struggle. This journey reflects the ancient archetype of the wounded healer, the individual who gains the ability to heal others through intimate understanding of suffering. Jung observed this pattern in many of his patients, particularly women who had experienced significant trauma or loss. Instead of remaining victims of circumstance, they turned their wounds into sources of compassion and wisdom that contribute to collective healing. Their pain became their qualification, their suffering, their certification as guides for others navigating similar journeys. The transcendent function works by holding opposing forces in tension until a new possibility arises. These women learn to accept both their light and shadow, their joy and sorrow, their strength and vulnerability. Rather than choosing sides in the inner conflict between opposing aspects of themselves, they embody a sacred union of these opposites, giving rise to a higher level of consciousness that goes beyond the initial struggle. Their integrated wholeness becomes a guiding light for others still facing inner division. This transformative process demands significant courage and a commitment to truth over comfort. These women must be willing to experience all emotions fully, resisting the urge to bypass their pain through premature forgiveness or forced positivity. They understand that true healing is not the absence of wounds, but the transformation of wounds into insight. Their scars become sacred markers, pilgrimage points for their own growth and eventually for those seeking similar transformation. The responsibility that accompanies this wisdom is profound and cannot be underestimated. Once you have turned lead into gold, once you have passed through fire and emerged refined rather than broken, you become responsible for contributing to collective healing. These women often feel drawn to roles such as counselors, teachers, artists, or healers, using their transformed pain as a source of support for a wounded world. Their fifth trait appears as a deep mastery of non-verbal communication, what Jung described as therapeutic presence. They have learned to convey meaning through the quality of their being rather than the number of their words. They recognize that silence can speak more clearly than speech, that being present can be more restorative than giving advice, and that sometimes the greatest help they can provide is simply witnessing another's experience without attempting to fix, change, or improve it. This form of communication through presence operates on energetic levels that bypass the rational mind and connect directly to the soul. When they enter spaces of suffering, their presence alone serves as a reminder that it is possible to endure the unbearable, to find purpose in meaninglessness, to discover light in darkness. They do not need to recount their experiences or offer clichés. Their very existence becomes evidence that transformation is achievable. Their approach to language reflects this deeper awareness. When they do speak, their words are deliberate, meaningful, and precise. They have come to understand that speech is a sacred act, with words holding the power to build or break, to comfort or harm. They select their expressions with care, valuing depth over volume, thoughtfulness over quantity. Their silence is not emptiness, but richness filled with understanding and compassion. This careful approach to expression reflects their entire energetic presence. They have learned to preserve their spiritual energy, recognizing that their sensitivity demands mindful attention to where and how it is directed. They are able to be generous with their presence because they have mastered energetic boundaries, knowing when to open up and when to withdraw, when to offer and when to safeguard. People frequently notice an improved sense of well-being simply from spending time with them, even briefly. This is not accidental, but a direct result of their refined energetic awareness. They act like tuning forks for higher frequencies, helping others reconnect with their own potential for peace, clarity, and wholeness through subtle resonance rather than deliberate effort. The sixth and final trait manifests as a natural magnetism for sacred experiences and meaningful coincidences. These women do not actively pursue spiritual moments, instead, they draw them in effortlessly. Their consciousness functions like a beacon for the mystical, attracting people, circumstances, and opportunities that support their personal growth and contribute to the collective awakening. What others seek desperately, they receive naturally. Jung referred to this as the attraction of synchronicity, observing that some individuals seem to exist in a reality where meaningful coincidences gather around them, much like iron filings around a magnet. These women express this quality not through manipulation or spiritual materialism, but through genuine alignment with their deepest truths. Their lives serve as living examples of synchronicity, filled with experiences that appear guided by an unseen intelligence. This magnetism works through what Jung described as autonomous complexes, psychological patterns operating independently of conscious control. In most people, these complexes tend to cause difficulties through projection and unconscious reactions. In spiritually intelligent women, these same mechanisms evolve into precise tools for attracting experiences that support their highest good. Their minds act like antennas, tuned to frequencies of meaning and purpose. The responsibility that comes with this gift demands careful discernment. Not everything that seems meaningful should be embraced. Not every coincidence should be pursued. Not every appealing opportunity contributes to genuine growth. These women must cultivate refined filters, learning to differentiate between true guidance and ego reinforcement, between divine timing and wishful thinking, and between sacred experiences and spiritual ego. Their presence in groups often sparks transformation in others, even when they aim to remain unnoticed. They become unintentional initiators. Their very being encourages others to challenge assumptions, reflect on motivations, and explore possibilities beyond standard thinking. This catalytic effect occurs naturally through energetic influence rather than deliberate effort. As these women grow into their abilities, they often encounter what can appear to be a paradox. The more spiritually aware they become, the more ordinary they seem. What was once extraordinary becomes so natural that its impact appears effortless. They no longer feel special for having these qualities and start to see them as tools for service rather than markers of identity. They learn to carry their wisdom lightly, holding their insights without attaching excessive importance. This growth reflects what Jung described as a return to simplicity, but at a more advanced level. After navigating the complexities of spiritual growth, confronting their shadows and integrating their light, as well as learning to balance both material and mystical realms, they reach a state of deep ordinariness. Their influence works through subtlety rather than spectacle, through being rather than constant action, through presence rather than performance. Recognition from the outside world becomes less relevant, and they increasingly realize they no longer require it. Their sense of fulfillment comes from within, from the quiet assurance that they are living their purpose simply by being genuinely themselves. They understand that their greatest contributions may go unnoticed, that their influence might be immeasurable, and that their legacy could be written in the lives of people whose paths they've touched without ever realizing the full extent of their impact. This pursuit of unseen influence represents the highest form of spiritual intelligence. It is the understanding that true power flows through love rather than force, through inspiration rather than manipulation, and through example rather than instruction. These women become living prayers, walking meditations, tangible reminders that it is possible to live with depth, authenticity, and grace in a world that often prizes superficiality, performance, and aggression. The solitude that once felt like exile transforms into their sanctuary. The sensitivity that once felt like a burden becomes their greatest strength. The hidden wisdom that once made them feel out of place becomes their most valuable gift to a world seeking genuine spiritual guidance. They learn to trust the intelligence within them, to honor the gifts that distinguish them, and to embrace a calling that may remain partly mysterious even to themselves. If you recognize that you are part of an ancient lineage of bridges, your sensitivity is not a weakness but a strength. Your need for solitude is not a limitation. Your ability to transform pain into wisdom is rare and invaluable, and your invisible intelligence is not imaginary, it is real and urgently needed. The path of a spiritually intelligent woman is not always simple, but it is always meaningful. It demands courage to trust what others cannot perceive, faith to follow guidance that may defy logic, and strength to remain true in a world that often rewards conformity. Yet for those called to this journey, there is no other choice. The intelligence that flows within you is not optional, it is essential. It is not something you choose, but something you are given, not earned but inherited. Your journey unfolds with every breath, every decision, and every moment of presence you bring to a world that deeply needs the medicine you hold. The unseen qualities that define who you are not coincidences. They are callings, assignments from the deeper intelligence that shapes all existence. Trust the wisdom that moves through you. Respect the sensitivity that distinguishes you. Welcome the solitude that rejuvenates you. Transform the pain that teaches you. Express yourself through the silence that communicates. Draw toward the sacred that serves your growth. If these words resonate with your inner knowing, if they touch something profound within, take a moment to reflect on your own path of spiritual intelligence. Share in the comments which of these traits you feel most strongly and how they have guided your awakening. Your story matters. Your experience affirms others, and your courage to be seen inspires women everywhere to embrace their unseen gifts. Consider subscribing to continue exploring feminine spiritual wisdom through the perspectives of depth psychology and Jungian insight. There are still hidden dimensions of the feminine soul to be revealed, unseen gifts awaiting celebration, and more women ready to recognize the profound intelligence within them. The dialogue continues, the journey deepens, and healing flows through every woman willing to claim her place in this ancient lineage of spiritual knowing.